Okay, so today, last day of the month, lesson number 31, workbook of A Course in Miracles. Um, you'll begin to understand why you are definitely not a victim of the world you see, if in fact you brought the world with you when you came. And while you may not remember that occurring, I assure you that it actually did occur that way. Today's idea is, in fact, your declaration of release. And I'm going to introduce a new way of practicing and applying the lessons today. What we're going to do is we're going to start the day when you wake up as soon as possible. I mean, don't hurry. As soon as you possibly can. And then again at night, before you lay yourself down to sleep. You're going to do it again, and during the day, as frequently as possible, whenever you can remember. You'll begin to understand that your thinking and your decisions, the ability, nothing happens but by your decision. And when we begin the day with a decision to do the lesson and end the day with a decision to do the lesson once again, we begin to allow our thoughts and our thinking, and therefore the way we experience the world and the purpose for which we are experiencing the world, to become ordered by the decision of our mind as we take responsibility for what we're seeing in the world and how we're seeing the world. And this lesson is going to say is it makes no difference whether that seems to be the external world that we look upon as we do the lesson with our eyes open, or the internal world that we begin to experience when we take the time to let the thoughts that are in us rise up, slowly view them within our mind as we apply the lesson to the thinking that is occurring and the seeing that's occurring within. We're not a victim of the world we see, because in fact, the world we see is a function, an outward picturing of our internal thinking. I don't know that there are many of you, possibly more than I can imagine, who have already had an experience of finding yourself here for a second, having not quite understood how you got here or why you got here, but with the recognition that being here required a past and a future. And in that instant, there was a past and a future, and that you brought with you. And now you're living, in a sense. Well, some of you won't experience it like this, so remember, you're living from the middle of being here, both backwards and forward at the same time. And your past and your experience of the past, it is colored by the way you experience the thoughts that you're having about the past, and the experiences or expectations or ideas for your future are actually the same way. So there's no difference in that sense between your past and your future. You carry them equally within you, and so you couldn't possibly be a victim of the world you see around you, because in fact you're the maker of the world you see around you, both past, present, and to come. What you'll begin to see and experience and remember and recognize is that if this idea is true, I am not a victim of the world I see, and I assure you it is true. If it is true, then all your fears, all your hopes, all the fears that we seem to carry with us from the past and past experiences, from before we begin to recognize how the world seemed to arise, all the experiences that occurred before, and all that you anticipate, be it joyful, be it problematic, all of the experiences and the ideas, the expectations and the failures, what you fear will occur as well as what you hope will occur, are ideas in your own mind. And you've been afraid of your own thoughts. You've been afraid of your own thoughts, and perhaps you haven't known why you've been afraid of your own thoughts, or even yet accept the responsibility for the fact that they are your thoughts. But as we do these lessons, especially this one today, as we do these lessons, today's lessons, we allow ourselves to take responsibility for the world that we see, both within us and around us and without us. We begin to take responsibility and accept the fact that we're seeing a projection of our own mind. And therefore, what's been fearful is the way we've been thinking rather than what it is we've been seeing. Now, and I'm sure, I know, based on my own experience and the guidance that I receive, I know for a fact that if I made the world that I see, then I could unmake it as well by changing my mind about what's occurring to me and why it's occurring to me. And we can begin, as Crowded House told us at the beginning of the lesson, we can begin to live each moment free from the past moment, simply recognizing that the only thing we feared in the past moment or in the future moments to come were the thoughts in our mind and not the world around us. And salvation, the simplicity of salvation, is now and will remain. The simplicity of salvation is based on the fact that I'm doing this to myself. Therefore, in any moment, my desire can turn around and I can accept the responsibility and the willingness to no longer do what I've been doing. No longer thinking and experiencing the thoughts and the world, or the world, as being something to victimize me, but I can experience them as in a new way, through the acceptance of the responsibility and the opening of our mind to the light of the Holy Spirit that will show us something about ourselves that has been eternally true and gives us the infinite power of the love that created us to begin to understand that it's just as easy to think with the unity mind of the Holy Spirit and that connection, that patch of the same cloth, of the seamless cloth of which we've been created by the loving Creator, and therefore begin to extend that love through the projection of our new mind, new thinking, where we're certain we're not alone, we're certain we haven't been abandoned, and we're certain that there's nothing to fear, since we're eliminating the fearful thoughts that come from identifying with the ego or the thought of separation. Ego as a getting mechanism, which causes us to think we're in lack and need, and therefore have to search about in a world of our own making for something that could satisfy us or allow us at least another moment of breath or another day on the planet. When you begin to open your mind to the light of the Holy Spirit and the recognition that I am God's love, I'm whole, complete, and perfect, you begin to see around you the solution that you're discovering within you. And you recognize, as it says, it's the salvation of the world because you made the world, but the world is not a place of lack. The world is a place where you can just as easily experience the wholeness of your own mind and the non-necessity to exist in need, and forget the world of forgetting and begin to experience the world based on the true function that's been given us of forgiving. Remember, here in space and time, the action of mind that we come to understand as forgiveness, not in, let's say, the traditional ways and senses that we've been brought up to understand it within maybe some of the religions that we were part of, but in the way that we experience it based on the application that we've been given by Jesus, that giving and receiving are one in truth, and everything that I've received, the wholeness, the love, the lack of lack that we were created in, can just as easily be projected and therefore experienced in the same way we previously projected a world of fear. We can begin to project and therefore experience a world based on being fulfilled as we forgive and we begin to recognize that we have more to give than we possibly could have ever imagined. Because, quite frankly, the storehouse of heaven is available to us in each and every moment we open our minds to the eternity and infinity of our own being, where there's no lack, where love can seem to take the form required in any given moment to demonstrate to ourselves and help our brothers recognize as well that there's no need to suffer anymore because we're not separate. We're whole, we're perfect, and need nothing but what we're given by our Father, which has been everything. So I'm not a victim of the world I see. Again, survey your inner world, let the thoughts rise up, and as they rise up, whatever they may be, just remember you're not a victim of the thoughts of the world you're seeing, either within or without. And in fact, you brought the world with you when you came. And you begin to know that you have already been saved and have always been saved. You may have forgotten the ways of salvation for a second, and this is beginning of remembering the ways of salvation through the application of forgiveness based on the recognition that that momentary break in communication that seemed to have caused us a loss that we haven't understood to now was not a loss of our perfection, was not a loss of our wholeness, was not a loss of the ability to experience the abundance of the grace of God, but in fact was just an instant of fear as a result of that break in communication. And now, through the opening of our mind and the recognition of the wholeness of spirit that is within us all, with that recognition and with the light that will fill the gap in our memory of forgetting, we will begin once again to receive the divine grace of the abundance of our Creator and look upon everything with that grace and with that abundance, simply because it was equally in our mind and heart as the previous thoughts we thought we were thinking when we felt separate and therefore forgot that the world around us was merely a function of our own thinking. So you should begin to enjoy the application of today's lesson right after you release yourself from the idea of the horrific world you imposed upon yourself and therefore everyone. I mean, that may come as a shock for a second, but let that be as it may. You're awakening from the shock of forgetting who you were and remembering through an action of forgiveness the reality of your own creation and the certainty that you could never be separate from everything. So therefore you look upon everything with the sense of love and appreciation for the life and abundance of grace that you were blessed with in your creation and could not have lost, because thoughts don't leave their source. As a thought in the mind of God, God is still thinking you right here and right now. And his thoughts from the totality of his reality cannot not include you as part of his own wholeness and perfection. So therefore, you're already be ye whole and perfect, was Jesus' commandment. Be ye now, not sometime in the future. You'll only find it right here, right now. Be ye whole and perfect, as your Father in heaven is whole and perfect. And in the wholeness and perfection of that light, you'll begin to see the world anew. And that newness will allow you to forget the horrors of the past in the recognition that you've escaped the world that you previously thought victimized you, and in fact are saved. And everyone is